Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is. Welcome to this very special bonus edition of the Erin Molan Show. We interrupt your new year, and Happy New Year to everyone, by the way, to bring you a very special interview. I didn't think we'd pull this off, and I have a lot of confidence in what we do here, but was very excited to get Mayor Eric Adams, the Mayor of New York City, still for only a few more moments, his final time in his office before he hands over to Zoran Mamdani. This interview, we go into his highlights, the low points, what he wishes he'd handled and done better. He's very raw, he's very vulnerable in this. We talk about the moments that mattered. We talk about his fears, not just for the Jewish community once Mamdani takes the reins, but for all of New York City. We talk about some of the people that Mamdani has named in his transition team, including a former al-Qaeda lawyer. I mean, go figure. We talk about Biden and betrayal. We talk about Donald Trump, why Mayor Adams changed his tune on Donald Trump, and would he work with Donald Trump moving forward? What does he do next? We also talked about the large-scale fraud that has been exposed in certain parts of the US. Is he worried that that exists also in New York City? There is so much in this. I wanted to bring it to you straight away. Please enjoy this exclusive final farewell interview with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Mayor Adams, thank you so very much for spending what is your last day in office here with the Erin Molan Show. It's a real honor and a privilege to have you on. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So kind of you to say that, and Happy New Year to you. It's going to be a great year.
How are you feeling? A lot of emotions, I'd imagine.
When you carry out a task and you don't give it your all and know that you could have done better, you leave with a level of sadness. I do not have that feeling at all. I'm really excited about the future. When you think about this journey that I've had, I've been extremely blessed. And we have carried out a function as the mayor. And the success speaks for itself. More housing in the history of the city, more jobs in the history of the city, the safest big city in America, what we've done around public safety, what I ran on. Job well done. You could do it for 4 years. You could do it for 8 years. The question becomes is, what did you do when you were there? And I am really pleased.
Polls don't seem to agree with you overly, but you say history will be a much better judge of your tenure. Why is that?
And that is so important, what you just stated, because the polls don't show that. It doesn't reflect that. History has shown us that there are retrospective appreciation. Our story was never told and how well this city recovered. We had a very hostile, left-leaning media in this city. And they never reported how we recovered our economy. Our economy has never been this strong. Bond raters have increased my bond to a A+ rating. When you look at how we managed the migrants and asylum seekers, 237,000 with an $8 billion price tag, public safety. And that story was never told. The story that was told throughout my entire tenure was just the lawfare that I experienced from the Biden's administration, and really a lot of the attacks. But families are doing better because of what we accomplished, and history will be kind and say that this was one of, if not the greatest administration the city has ever witnessed.
You mentioned Lawfare and Biden. I'd love to know, with a little bit of time that's passed, how let down you feel, not only by him, but by people who were in your own party, who you clearly trusted and who you dedicated your life to serve.
40 years of an impeccable record of giving back to the city. I'm disappointed in what, under the Biden's administration, what the Justice Department has done. And now we're seeing every day from some of the files that are being declassified, we're seeing what was taking place. President Biden himself stated that his Justice Department was politicized. We're seeing the raiding of President Trump's home that should never have taken place. And we see what happened with me, to be prosecuted for upgrades and for merely calling an agency to do their job It's just really unfortunate. But you move forward. You don't wallow in despair. I was sworn to serve and to deliver for the city, and we did that. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
What was the highlight?
Oh, there were many. When you do an analysis of it, it was clearly a highlight to navigate this city through COVID. Many people thought we were not going to make it through. We did. To really watch the last migrant and asylum seeker leave our care. 90% of those who came into our care, 90% went on to the next journey, and then making the city safe. I ran on public safety. I wore that bulletproof vest for 22 years. I dedicated my life to New Yorkers being safe. And now to watch how these numbers have shown we're the safest big city in America. So there's many highlights. Handing someone a key for the first time. We built more housing in the history of the city. We zoned the city for more housing in the history of the city. There's so much we've done, and so there's many things that I could just look back and say, this has been a great journey.
What moment do you look back upon and think, I could have done that better?
Oh, many. If you don't reflect on your own life to see how you could have done things better, then you are not being honest with yourself. I'm perfectly imperfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of good days and a lot of bad days. I would say some of the people I trusted, I should not have trusted, particularly some who volunteered for me on my campaign. They did things that appear to have been really wrong to do. And I paid a very expensive price for that. And, I believe in trust. I don't get disappointed and all of a sudden become jaded. You keep moving forward. But I think that if I want to reflect on one area, is that there were people I trusted that I should not have trusted. Never broke a law, never done anything wrong, but you are judged by the people who are around you. And I have to reflect on some of those decisions I made of some of the people I trusted.
You mentioned Donald Trump earlier, and you were once quite a vocal critic of his. That's softened significantly. Will you ever work for Donald Trump, and would you ever look at the Republican Party as a next home for you?
Well, you never say never in anything in life. And I want to really thank the president when you look at the fact that he had his Justice Department re-look at my case, and they saw how it was clearly lawfare. You have to say thank you. He didn't know me. I never met him prior to him running for office. While he was on the campaign trail, he often talked about, look at what they're doing to that mayor in New York because he's criticizing their immigration policy. And so I want to personally thank him. And I think that we're seeing what he's doing for the country, how he's stopping wars, how he's making our economy stronger, how he secured our borders. I was getting 4,000 at one point, 4,000 migrants and asylum seekers a week coming to our city. That's 16,000 a month. And when he secured the border, that has dropped over 90% from that number. That has helped our city in so many ways. And so I think the president is doing a great job for this country. And I believe our country needs to continue to move forward. And I'm a strong believer when the votes are cast, whomever is the winner, we rally behind that winner to make sure our country continues to move forward. And that's the same here with this mayor's race. I disagree with Mamdani's policies, but we made sure our transition team gave him all the information that he needed because we don't want him to fail. If he fails, our city fails.
On Donald Trump, have you had conversations with him about what you might do next? Have you spoken about working together?
Well, I'm going to always collaborate with no matter who the president is. We have not talked about me joining his team or not. I want to go into business. I want to do a number of things to really use technology to improve the lives of New Yorkers and people across the globe. I want to use blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency to make sure that we could help those who are in need. The city that I inherited and the country that I live in 4 years ago is far different now. And we must prepare working class people to embrace the change and not be afraid of the change. And I will partner with the federal government on any level to accomplish that task.
You mentioned Mamdani. I mean, yes, you want to do everything you can to help him transition, and that is the right thing to do, absolutely. But are you concerned about what New York now looks like, not just for a very significant Jewish community, but for New Yorkers in general?
Yes, because we're all in this together. What you do to my Jewish brothers and sisters is going to impact an African American, a Trinidadian, a Mexican, a Chinese. We're in this city together. And if you bring a level of fear, if you bring a level of erosion of quality of life, it's going to impact us all. So yes, I do have some concern. And I think the first 6 months to a year, we'll know if this administration is going to continue the success of our administration. What does that look like? That means quality of life issues. You can't put homeless people back on the streets after we remove them off and put them in a humane environment. You can't release thousands of inmates from Rikers Island who have committed violent crimes and they go back into the communities that impact them. You have to support the police. Public safety is a prerequisite to our prosperity, and he needs to maintain control of the school system. And so when you look at all of these important policy issues, if he does not maintain a steady course to move us forward while the winds are in our sails, then it could be harmful to our entire city. And I am concerned about that because of the Democratic Socialists of America who just hate our way of life. And we need to be concerned about that.
Some members of his team could arguably be even worse than he is when it comes to some of the things and the values that I know you and I share. And we've only met once briefly. You probably don't even remember at a Jewish event in New York. And I, like you, am not Jewish, but I stand staunchly alongside that community because you should. It makes sense. But his lawyers represented Al Qaeda, a lawyer he's just appointed to join the administration. I mean, did you ever think that you would be handing over to people with links like this to run New York City?
No, I did not. In my wildest imagination, anger breeds, a reaction that sometimes become harmful. I heard one of his uh, potential appointees state that they want to do a moratorium on AI, artificial intelligence, which the globe is moving at an alarming rate. And we would say we would be left behind. The center of our entire, technology universe is right here in New York. And so when you hear the decriminalizing of prostitution, where little boys and girls will be on the streets selling their bodies, when you hear some of the policies and beliefs, taxing millionaires, running millionaires out of our city, they're part of our financial ecosystem, taxing communities based on their ethnicity. These are wrong things. And many of his supporters, particularly the DSA, they believe these items, and it will be extremely detrimental to the success of this city.
The fraud that we're seeing exposed by an independent journalist in your country at the moment is mind-blowing. Are there any fears that you have that this could be going on in New York City as well? Anything similar?
No, it is mind-boggling when you look at billions of dollars. If it turns out to be accurate, that billions of dollars were placed in what was considered child care centers where no children were actually in there. That's troubling. And I think the investigation must take its course and people must be held responsible. We've had billions of dollars that were spent on our migrants and asylum seeker crisis. We put in many safeguards and checks and balances in the system to make sure that money was not abused at all. It was a very expensive endeavor, particularly when you're dealing with emergencies. You pay more than what you deal with in a normal environment. But we had many safeguards in place to ensure those checks and balances were there.
Couple before we go, because I know, again, your time is so precious. Is there any aspect of the mainstream media that you will miss? Any?
Uh, what's interesting is that some of the seasoned journalists, they did it with a level of integrity. I don't think you'll find too many elected officials who won't complain about media coverage. That's just the nature of the business. The job of the media is to point out when we do something wrong. But there were a great deal of those who assigned, particularly to me as mayor, they did not understand what it's like to be an African-American mayor, the second one in the history of the city. They personalized their coverage. I think many of them had their own agenda. They were lefty in their mindset. And so when you do a coverage of a mayor, you cover the good parts and the bad parts. But I challenge people to do an analysis of the success that we have shown in the city and see if the positive parts were ever covered. If you were to wake up every day, you would think that this was an incompetent, corrupt administration when all the numbers prove just the opposite. No mayor has matched the numbers that I had. And so, yes, I'm gonna miss some of the seasoned journalists who ask the tough questions, who cover the tough stories, but acknowledge the success of administration that had to endure so many challenges, from COVID to migrants and asylum seekers to lawfare to crime. And we got the city through that, and we're really proud of that.
Last question. You would get to meet the most famous people in the world over the past 4 years. It's a perk of the job. I'd love to know the most exciting person you got to meet from a fame level, and then also an everyday New Yorker that will live rent-free in your head for the rest of your life, that might have said something to you about what you were doing or what you were fighting for that made you potentially weep or just say, this is why I do what I do. So if I could have a couple at both ends of the spectrum, I'd be really grateful.
Yes, early in the administration, a mother was sitting in the car and her 11-month-old baby was shot in the head. Thank God the baby lived, but I sat in the emergency room with her, and a level of strength and resiliency and faith in God just stayed with me throughout my entire tenure as mayor. You know, she just showed me how, if your beliefs are strong and you're committed, then you can get through anything. You know, an 11-month-old child shot in the head, and that baby's still alive. So you can imagine how impactful it was. And I think there are so many stories like that. Everyday people that were doing extraordinary things. They sort of highlight what I thought was great. The celebrities, the notables, it didn't really move me as much as, you know, just these ordinary people. No one is holding the door for them. No one is driving them around. No one is getting their cup of coffee. No one is treating them with the level of prestige that comes with being notable. I just fell in love with these working class, everyday people, the cab drivers, the waiters, the waitresses, the people who clean homes, the teachers, these everyday people. That is who I would like to always remember.
Okay, but if you have to pick one that was cool, and I get what you're saying because I agree with you as well.
Yes. You know, I don't think there's anyone cooler than me, but, you know, if I had to...
I think that's a perfect way to end it. Mayor Adams, thank you so much. Thank you for your service to that wonderful city, and thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you. Take care.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's celebration. I spent mine with my daughter, my 7-year-old. We watched the 9 o'clock fireworks on the couch at home, having just ordered McDonald's, chicken nuggets and chips. I got a crispy McChicken burger. We both got McFlurries. She got M&M. I got Oreo with flakes. Yes, we got 2 extra flakes. 2. And it was delicious. Not my most exciting New Year's, but probably my favourite thus far. I hope you all had wonderful experiences. I hope 2026 is amazing. I'm optimistic, I really am. Why? Because what is the alternative, my friends? What's the point otherwise? If we don't have hope, we have nothing. I'm optimistic. My dad used to always say, cautiously optimistic, and I think I will borrow that term from him. Love you all. Thank you so much for the most incredible support that you have given us over the past few months since we launched this show in August. It has been mind-blowing. Please continue to share. We'll continue to produce the best possible product for you. Follow the podcast, rank it, rate it, comment, same as YouTube, social media, however you consume us. We don't care. Our standards are low as long as you do. Love you all. We'll see you on Monday. In fact, we've got a weekend special as well as this extra episode. We can't help ourselves. We just keep producing content for you because we love it so much and we know that you love it so much. We've got a very special guest on the weekend, and then Monday, fresh commentary, news, hard-hitting, everything you love right here on the Erin Molan Show.